you know, this profile is like several weeks late, and I've been playing it for like God knows how long, and I've made several changes to it, but you know, better late than never. What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. This is the Duel Factory, and it's been a while since I've posted. The hiatus was due to me. I actually attended YCS Anaheim, and I was doing some testing and doing deck choices and stuff like that, and then I got back from the event, and I continued playing this deck, and some of the profiles that I had mentioned I was going to do got kind of put to the wayside. But I'm back. I'm going to profile this, and then we're going to go on to the next project. For YCS Anaheim, I played more of a rogue-ish strategy, is what I'm going to say. I actually did get a feature match. You can go watch part of it on Konami's official stream. But I played what's called Bystial, Azamina Fiendsmith. As you know, I had been talking about playing the Thunder Dragon deck, and then I had also been playing with just a regular Bystial control deck, and then it turned into Bystial Fiendsmith, and then I was sitting there playing it, and like it needed a little extra kick. So I needed another engine that I thought that would facilitate well with it, and the Azamina cards were popular at the time. So I was playing them, and they had really good synergies with the actual Bystial cards themselves, especially with Saronir, because it gives you access to Lebellion, and technically, if you open 2 of the 3 engines or so, like some combination of those cards, you can have access to all 3, right? And then applying it to what I thought was going to be popular at the meta YCS Anaheim, I thought the Bystial cards would be really good. I thought the Fiendsmith engine was the best engine in the game. The only problem was the Azamina cards weren't very good going second because it wasn't very good into the Ryziel deck. But I thought it was good enough to make my game 1 better, so I decided to stick with it and just increase the size of the non-engine. And day 1, I went 7-2. My only losses were to a Tenpai player and 1 Malice deck. And then I won out. I actually finished 9-2, but I did make top cut, which is really unfortunate, which is also another reason I haven't profiled. I was kind of upset because I really thought I was going to top that event. But you know, it just gives me more motivation to go to another event and try it again. That being said, the list has changed since I've played it, but in this video, if you'll look in the description, I will have a dueling book link for what I'm going to profile you. And then I will also have one for what I played at the actual event, so you can look at the side deck choices and stuff like that. But I'll go ahead and get into the list, and then we can talk about some of the card choices and stuff. So the first part of the deck is the Bystial part, which is Bystial Lebellion. This card giving you access to Regain is really, really good. Also, being able to access it through sending it off Saronir and then adding it back off Ptolemy M7 to establish a Regain is actually really important because the Regain gives you a really good Malice matchup, right? And the Bystial cards themselves actually aren't terrible against it because you can actually trap them when they're trying to, when they've already banished their guys, you can actually permanently get rid of their resources. You got to be careful, though, with playing that type of game. And then for the Bystial names, most decks playing Bystial engines don't play Saronir. I am, because Saronir has great synergy with your with your Azamina cards. Arguably, post games 2 and 3, like for example, when I'm going second, I side the not Bystials, but I side the Azamina cards out, so I probably got down on the number of Saronir. But the synergies it has is really good. Plus, it's another name, so I like having more additional names to be able to summon my opponent's turns. The 1-ofs, 1 Baldrake, and 1 Magnamut. In your combos, you're searching Magnamut, and then that like gives you access to a dragon every single turn. And Baldrake is my best form of interruption. It's usually the first dragon I search off Magnamut because it works really, really well with Regained. It works really, really well with your inboard, and it's very hard for your opponent to deal with. And then the only other one I played multiple copies of was Jurisworm. I wanted to play 1, but I thought having access to 2 made a lot of sense because it's a really great form of removal. And it's really strong against a detonator, just because it's one of those where you can do it as your first action, and then they're either forced to burn the negation off the Ryziel Cross if they established it, and if they don't, then the Jurisworm hits the board and immediately threatens the detonator by crashing into it and sending it, and then you can start playing unimpeded. It was probably the best, other than Baldrake, right? Jurisworm was probably my second one, not named Magnamut. That was just really, really good for me in this event. And then I do play the 1 copy of Regained. I do want to be able to make room for the second one. I have contemplated doing multiple things. I think we cut the Jurisworm down to 1 to play the second Regained because it's already a 44 card list. But after playing this deck for several months, One of the changes I have considering was just cutting the Azamina cards and just playing it with Bystial cards and Fiendsmith cards, because I think it's probably now just good enough. But yeah, that is the actual Bystial package itself. The Azamina cards. 3 copies of Black Witch. When I was playing it more like a Bystial Fiendsmith or like a Bystial control deck, one of the things I noticed is the deck, when you play those engines by themselves, you're kind of starved for starters, as weird as that sounds, right? Like, for the Fiendsmith stuff, like, you have your Lacrima and you have Engraver as a starter. And then the Bystials themselves, like, Lubellion, I guess you can technically consider a starter, but the problem is if you discard Lubellion and then you add Magma, you have to banish Lubellion if you don't have anything else in there. And then now, sure, you have a Magnuma, but you don't have any way to establish the regame, which is the whole point anyway. And I thought Black Witch was a good way to segue the two, because Black Witch puts an extra body on board. It also gives you access to Deception, which gives you, uniquely when you get to Deception, it gives you access, if worst case scenario, it turns a level 7 to a level 6 into either Rusialago or very worst case scenario, Sylvia, for you to be able to A, make a rank 6 play, or B, search another card to get another body on board. It also puts a dark in the graveyard. So, like, for example, if you opened, like, let's say Black Witch, Random Hand Trap, and Lubellion, now I can send the Black Witch, get the Deception, or send the Black Witch for the Deception Church. Then, if necessary, I could banish the Black Witch with Magnuma, then bring out the Lubellion and set up regain access, and then we're off to the races, right? Black Witch is really good for me. I did not like this engine going second against almost every matchup. It didn't matter what it was. So I ended up siding these cards out going second, which is fine, because it made my game ones better, which is what I wanted. And then they became a lot better post games 2 and 3, especially when you side in copies of cards like Thrust, because then you can thrust, or like you can do your combo if you get interrupted. Plus, she baits out multiple hand traps too. So like, if that gets stopped, that means my Fiendsmith plays are resolving. That means my Bystial plays are probably resolving too. Like, it did everything I wanted it to. So go with the 3 copies of Wanted. Those I thought were the best 6 starter cards for the Azamina package. And then 1 copy of Deception and 1 copy of Howl Azamina. You could make an argument to play more Deception, but I think the card is so terrible into Detonator that I think you only need the 1, and seeing as I only have 1 search target for it anyway, which is Hollowed Azamina, which is my soul card, by the way, the cards say glued in my hand, I figured I was better off just playing the 1, and it was the right move. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, I would sit there and, like, I lost, I want to say, like, 7 dice rolls, and, like, I would see one, like, the amount of times I saw Deception in hand was very little. And anytime I would have saw it, it just would have been terrible, right? So the decision to only play 1, I think, was honestly correct. And I think if you're going to play the Azamina engine, I think this is the correct ratio anyway. And that's it for that. And then for what I think is arguably the best engine in Yu-Gi-Oh! So we have 3 copies of Fiendsmith Engraver. I just wanted more starter cards and more cards that pair well with Necroquip Princess, and that fits the bill. One thing I did take from some of the profiles that I had been watching before the event started, I did play 3 copies of Lacrima in previous builds, including the Thunderless and stuff like that. We were playing the ideal normal summon being Black Metal, because I was playing the, what's it called? The Red Eyes Black Metal Full Dragon as Interruption, stuff like that, but after playing it, I think I played that package for like 3 weeks. I took it to an event or something like that, and then like the more and more I played it, like it was really good. But I feel like, one, if it gets hand-trapped at the right time, there's no way to keep extending and stuff like that. And I don't feel like it applied as much pressure as a normal summon Lacrima would. And then Lacrima, if it get hand-trapped, could turn into Requiem, could turn into Engraver, and like you could just keep the ball rolling, right? It applied a lot of pressure. It being level 4 is really crucial, because you can always either summon a Bystial or summon an Engraver and turn it into Necroquip, and you can always make a Light Dark Chaos Angel, which is really, really good at the event too. It being an interruption, by bringing back Requiem summon, then send Fiendsmith in Paradise, or just naturally sending it off normal summon is actually really crucial too. But it was really, really good. It was way better than playing the Black Metal Dragon, so I definitely stand by that decision to change that. And then 1 copy of Fable Blurry, it's just an engine requirement. And then I only played one Fiendsmith in Paradise and one Fiendsmith tracked. I've been playing this for a long time now, and I think I definitely need to find a way to make room for a second Fiendsmith track, because it comes up multiple times that like the first one will get stopped, but you'll have an engraver anyway, or you can recycle it, and you need to be able to search something, right? And I'm not trying to search this trap card unless I know like it's like a trap matchup or something like that, right? And if I cut the Azamina cards, then it's no problem, because then I can add a second copy of track in it, right? But that is it for the Fiendsmith stuff. And then the rest of the deck is non-engine. So let's get into that. We played 3 copies of Ash Blossom, which I think is the best generic hand trap right now. But the problem is in certain situations, I don't think it's the greatest, or it's not good enough by itself, so it has to be paired with something. I wasn't playing it at the time, but now I am playing 3 copies of Nib, just because I think it's really good against the Ryziel deck, and I think it's really, really good against Malice decks, depending on where you hit them. You just have to be patient. 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. I was playing this at the YCS as well. I think this is the best hand trap in my deck by far. There's a lot of applications. It's really good against Ryziel, obviously, just depending on when you do it. It's really good. It can be good against Malice, just depending. If they have Shifter, obviously, it's not. It's really good against rogue matchups too, which you run into a lot when you go to bigger events. 3 copies of Veiler, and then 3 copies of Imperm. I was main decking Fuwalos for the YCS, which you'll see in the online link if you click that later. But lately, I just haven't been liking that card a lot. Like, it's really cool, like, when you draw it second, because, like, it doesn't give your opponent a free pass, but, like, most of the times, like, especially when you win the dice roll and you see the card in hand, it doesn't really do anything other than be, like, an extra body. But that only matters if you open your Azamina package, which you will have situations where you don't open it, obviously. But it just seems, I know it sounds weird, but as a overall general card in the main deck, it seemed really mediocre to me. And like, especially like when you go to events and you get to like to the higher tables and stuff like that. And I noticed it too, especially like my rounds, I want to say round 5 through 11. So I really notice it. Like, you see Fuwalos, but your opponent never really plays into it. And you're just sitting there, and like it, like sure, like it made them make a half board or made like the situation worse, but like it didn't really accomplish what you wanted to. So I just moved it to the side for now, just when I know I'm going second. And I've been doing that for like 2 weeks now, and so far it hasn't been bad, right? But I could just be wrong on that decision, but who knows? And that is the main deck. On to the extra deck. The 2 Azamina fusions is Rusialago and Sylvia. Rusialago being able to search any wanted spell or trap is really good, or I think it's a spell, hold on. And 1 Azamina or 1 Sinful Spoil card from deck to hand, my bad. But this card being able to search Hallowed Azamina itself is actually like a very, very vital thing, because there are a lot of times you'll do something and say, like, for example, you have to, or like the Hallowed Azamina get shuffled back or something like that. Like, if you had access to this card, like, it just gets you straight back into it. This card also gets hand trapped a lot, which also makes it really good in that sense, because like you can do that and like your opponent thinks you're searching something, but realistically you're only searching wanted most of the time. If you summon it a second time, there is a play where you put the Deception back and you can search the Deception straight off it too, which I did a lot. But it's just a hand trap magnet, so you just summon it, it eats a hand trap, and you just keep playing. But there have been situations where I thought about cutting it and just playing Sylvie, because a lot of the times, like, you're just doing flashy stuff for no, like, actual value return. And summoning Sylvie probably just makes more sense. This card was really good. I'll tell you one thing, I got Cult by the Grave on that card an uncomfortable amount. But there were, most of the times when it happened, they controlled a monster, and I still had the Baldric in hand from searching my combo, so that's a real play. But those are the Azamina fusions. I don't think there's any other Azamina cards. We played 1 Desiree and 1 Necroquip. I also played these numbers at the YCS. I do want to make room for a second Desiree, because that does come up. If I cut the Azamina cards, I have plenty of room. So, there's that. This card's really good. Just the 1 Chaos Angel. This card's really good. It carries a lot. And then there are some decks that just don't have an out to it. Especially, like, if you look at some of the Fiendsmith Ryziel decks, if they don't play, like, either their own, or if they don't play a non-engine that deals with anything like that, like Chaos Angel is like a real problem. But yeah, you would think with the lack of like level 4s and stuff like that, it'd be harder to summon, but like you just always have access to Lacrima, so it's just never an issue. XYZs, 1 M7, 1 Caesar, and then 1 Typhon. I summoned this card at the Anaheim a total of 1 time. The other 10 matches, it just doesn't come up. The only match I summoned this against was the Tenpai player. And that was our game 2. I summoned it, and he just couldn't deal with it. So, M7 is probably my favorite card in the extra deck. I love this card. Being able to bounce Hand Traps back, being able to bounce Lebellions back. Like, there was one Malice player. Like, I opened a copy of Lancia, and because of this card and Regained, I used that same copy of Lancia 3 times in one game, and it was just too much for him. Like, the fact that he didn't scoop was impressive, but you can tell that man was very angry with me. This was the same XYZ lineup I played. For the links, I'm currently playing 2 copies of Requiem. At the event, I was only playing 1. Because I didn't think I needed the second copy, because I was also playing Lina, which Lina is an insane card, by the way. I currently cut it to play the second Requiem, because I thought the second Requiem would come up more than the Lina, which is true, it has. But there have been a couple situations that I've really wanted that card, so I need to find a way to put it back in. But 2 Requiem for now I think is really good. The 1 Moon of the Closed Heaven for the bridge. Then 1 Sequence. 1 Agnum Day. This card is really, really good. And then 1 copy of Silhouette Rabbit to go with the Azarin statue if I didn't show it earlier. And then the 1 copy of SP Little Knights. And that is my Bystial Azamina Fiendsmith deck profile. I really like how the deck performs. I would encourage you, if you were going to play a rogue-ish type pick or something like that, I would give this deck a try. See what you think of it, make the adjustments, and then play it how to your liking. I don't know if I'll continue to play it or not, because I've been playing with the Bystial cards for a long time, and I think I've experimented with them as an engine enough, but you never know, I could change my mind on that. I do want to play the Bystial deck at some point, because I picked up these really cool looking CRs, and I have just not played them at all, and I think we need to change that. Plus, I also just saw a profile for a Volcanic Bystial deck that looks really cool, because, you know, I like Volcanic cards, so I might try that too, but I don't know. But this is the Duel Factory. My name's Joe. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.